Hello again. Mm, some deep thinking going on. So I'm going to go through a word now. The whole plan was to do a Friday show, and I was going to learn how to do Zoom and play that through YouTube. Ha. Um, not not sure about the Zoom bit now. You can't use Zoom through YouTube unless you pay. And while when I thought it was going to be 120 quid, I thought, well, maybe. Hi, NFJ, how are you? I thought maybe that'd be okay. But it's 120 quid pounds, and then £24 tax, so it's like £150. And I thought £150 to do one show, that's a bit, in my situation, a bit steep. So I'm perusing that idea about going through Zoom. The problem with just doing YouTube is I don't know if I've got the ability to share the screen, and I'm still unsure as to how to invite people on. So I'm trying to get through that. But this is about a flight of imagination. This is a reverie. Forrest gave us lots of information, and then the book talked about certain things, which, although was about teaching education and daydreaming and nightmares and stuff, had lots of different information in it. And rather like once upon a while, it's just could be just saying as. Um, the information that Forrest gave, in my opinion, was the Fenn speak that we talk of. So if you didn't understand what Forrest was saying, then you were miles away from where you should be. But if you could walk in those shoes, as it were, then you had a chance. So why was imagination better than knowledge? Or more important than knowledge? And why was it important to know what was worth knowing and what wasn't worth knowing? And those sort of statements, and a deep thinking searcher using logic, read the poem over and over. Those sort of hints that would help somebody find the answers. So, it's not about finding the chest, it's about finding the answers, about understanding the poem. So, I, in my crazy way, decided that I would try to work out what the words mean. And there's a lot of words, and Forrest used words like tenacity, metal, resolve, shift, drift, adjust, those sort of things. And those words came up. And it was easy to understand why. So I'm going to read the words. So you have to trust me. You don't have to trust me. You can look up, Hippo word app. You could have that going as well, and see where I am in relation to what I'm saying. So Matt the Master was a genius, or whoever Forrest was talking about when he inferred they were genius could have just been in the imagination. Could have been an invention. And Forrest talked about I crafted that poem. So imagination is a craft. He also talked about when his first awareness. So in here we have craft and awareness next to each other. So was that his imagination? Was that his imagination? Did I say it right? So imagination is art, is wisdom, is knowledge. Is touch. Please touch. So please imagine. So his craftsmanship for crafting the poem. And then in here there'll be other words that he indicated were offered as good solutions, possibly. And this is all in my imagination. So, finding the answer, Forrest said, it's not written down anywhere on any computer, it's in my head. And head synonyms to imagination, so therefore he could have been saying, it's not written down anywhere, it's in my imagination. So he talked about the method, the license that he was going for, and then he broke down, sounding his horn, etc. Just all bent, reach. So it'd be interesting for people to find out what the word Ben means. Which is another word I was going to do, but I can't do all of them, I don't think. So I'm just going to go through a few. Poetry. So it's not written down anywhere on a computer, it's in my poetry. It's in my head, it's in my imagination. Any of those could have been what Forrest was saying, if that is the case. If words don't mean what they think they do, and you looked up all the words. Horse sense, that might be just reference to lightning. So here is one that you shouldn't ignore, in my opinion. That's you need an aha moment. So the imagination is an aha moment. So you need imagination. You need smarts, which Forrest said he had, 101, 102 smarts. And that could also be, litter 81, litter 82, what was that? Why litter and why 81 and why 82? The sixth sense, ESP. And we had jumpstart the learning curve. So learning, so jumpstart the imagination. Subtlety. Obviously we have thoughts, so but not lost. Prophecy. So imagination is prophecy. So in the poem I've talked about the predicted events, the prophesized events, and could they be the 9 pieces of imagination that you need in order to understand the poem? I won't say that because that's coming up later. So I'll do a bit, then I'll come back to the chat, see if anybody's there. Idea, logic, Ken's back, KEN, till something catches up in your brain. Attention, again, prediction, hold, scholarship, notice, balance, BA Lance, nose, marbles. So he was the marbles champion. So was he the imagination champion? Could he imagine lots of things? Mother wit, fortune telling. So I think people might remember the doll that did the fortune telling behind in that glass cabinet. So we have the word take. Doesn't seem like much, but if you begin it where warm waters halt and imagination in the canyon down. So maybe you're not going into the canyon, maybe you're imagining that you will be going into, you'll be going into that canyon. Opinion, a way of thinking. So there is a way to know, what was said. So what is the way to know? Knowing is another word. IQ. Is that the IQ clearance that Forrest has? Or is there a more important Q clearance? Picture, omen, palm reading. Logical thought, contact. Sus is a word that people know. In the chase, note. I'm just trying to use words that you should if you've been in the chase. Maybe you won't know the word astrology, but the way that I worked was I had to look up everything just in case, because you never know. It's risky to ignore any. I'll do, like I say, one bit and then I'll come back to chat. So if anybody's joined in before, sorry, hello. But this is going to take a while, so I want to try and do that. So wait. what it takes. Forrest talked about you have to study and analyze the poem. So imagination. So study, handle, ear. I'm not going to explain them too much. Loaf, bearing. It probably would help if you went through this in your own time at your own speed. So people say, I should join Discord, and I say, well, I'm more about Accord. But he also talked, Forrest did, of Concord. Flash. Forrest said he had a gut feeling, so he had imagination that somebody would find the chest, and a feeling in one's bones. So gut feeling in one's bones. Outlook. So is that a message? Is that an email? So here we have next to each other Outlook address. So that could be email address. Outlook being the provider and address. So Outlook and address are the two words that are there. It could be an email address. And then we have indulgence. So the chest was called indulgence. So was the chest called imagination? Was it in Forrest's imagination? Was it in his revelry? Construction. Faith. Head. So not written down anywhere, it was in my head. Spiritualism. Remember, I looked up these words and then I had to look at a possible solve around that, foretelling the future. Version. So which version? Five little like this, a riff. So we have two F's on the end, but a riff. So now we have the word letters. So is the imagination letters? Letters are more important than knowledge. So the knowledge are the words that we have, but they don't mean what you think they do. So maybe we need the letters to imagine the letters. And I'm not saying that's the case. I'm saying here is information. And it's the synonym of the word that Forrest used. And he gave us words to say that words don't mean what we think they do, such as tenacity, which, yes, is imagination. And metal and resolve, yes, it's imagination. And you need these things. And Forrest wasn't short of them because he's the imagination champion. You need book learning and academic knowledge. And Forrest said, it's academic. If you solve the first two clues metaphorically, you're halfway there. How does that work in most people's solves? Wow. Hi, Lucky Digger. Marbles is a stone. Hi, Aspect. Wow, you put a lot there. Washington. I'm in Soldier. Oh, you're giving a lot away there. Amy. Hi, Amy. Got yeah. No wonder. Hi, nice to see you. I'm going to rush through this. I tried to explain, I did explain earlier that I wanted to do YouTube through Zoom, but you can't do YouTube through Zoom unless you have a pro version of Zoom. And that was, I thought it was going to cost 120 quid. And I thought that was bad enough, but when I actually tried to apply, they charged £24 tax, which came to nearly 150 quid. And I'm deliberating whether I can afford to justify spending that kind of money. I'm not trying to say that I'm a pauper, and stuff, but £150 for me is quite a lot to do, just do a show. Although I think it might be an important show, I'd have to try and justify spending £150. So what I'm doing is I'm going through the word imagination, which is what Forrest said was more important than knowledge, but it also means revelry, and Forrest told us about his revelry. So if we can understand why imagination is important and why or how we can find what is in Forrest's revelry or in his head, because he said it was not written down anywhere, it was in his head. So was it in his daydreaming, his vision? I gave that out as a name of a group who were singing Lucifer's Friend, which could be Pluto's friend. So his dream, his thought, talked about along the river bottom where fantasies, etc., go to play. Reverie, I say reverie, in his reverie. So reverie is imagination. His mind's eye, his pipe dream. So is that sitting bull's pipe? So drift. So you have to shift, drift, and adjust. We were told chimera. It's images. So there were images in the book. Did you have to understand those as well as the poem? So I was speaking to Dave and I said, Forrest must have wrote the poem without the book because the book was only the vehicle. So was what's in the book aimed at the poem? You know, what you see in the book is because of the poem more than because what was supposed to be wrote. The idea, hopes, so hopes because he was going to give hope out of depression, and plans because plans are antagonistic to freedom. And muse is obviously another word for hope, or one of the muses. So castles in the air. We have the word focus. A lot more words, but I'm just going through the words that I think might be interesting. So in tight focus with a word that is key. And also we were told that Forrest wanted us to share in his passion. So to share in his imagination or in tight imagination with a word that is key. Now this is the bit where people are saying stuff and I sort of said to Forrest, wrote in an email that didn't know who was who. It's difficult to, I don't know the words I used, but basically I was implying it's difficult to say anything because the words that I'm getting are contradictory and not flattering. So now we have in the imagination words like fib, untruth, lie, fantasy, whopper, which is a word that everybody should know by now. Bulldust, sham, croc, tall story, which I think took me to Tall Pines in New Mexico. We have a cock and bull story. Now this could be, I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying it could be. It could be the rooster that was the cock that was painted, and it could be Cody the bull. We also have a fish story, which could be, the fish called Brown that is at 9 Mile Hole or whatever, that scenario is. And then there's the, it's important to the story, but I'm leaving that for the finder. So it's important to the imagination, but I'm leaving that to the finder. Or is that saying that, that's why Mr. Brown exists? So, in all of this, you have to try and work out which is correct and which isn't. So made up story. So we have the word story and the word error, which is something that Forrest touched on. Is it an error or is it a mistake or etc. Or is it just imagination? Then we have the fairy tale, which Capo was telling us about. And then we have the word tale, which Forrest highlighted as he wrote it incorrectly. A bit like tenacity and the word right, etc. And retarded. So the yarn, the forgery, the line, the while, the tracks and wiles of nature, the artifact, the opus, a departure from the truth, a red herring, a song and dance. So those sort of negative aspects of the imagination, but just information, in my opinion. So, it didn't bother me that this information was coming out because I could understand some of it and I could understand why some of it was there. And part of that prompted me to come and do these videos, because people were saying not very nice things about Forrest and the way the chase was. Might be wrong. I'm not sure what that is in reference to, but I might be wrong. That's definite. Or we might be wrong, I should say. So more words for imagination. So we have the ideas, we have discovery, which has been talked about with regard to all these court cases. So the imagination. I'm trying to just do words that I think that you will cotton on to with regard to what Forrest says. I don't know how much information these people in the chase know, whether you're in it from the very beginning and you're part of Chase Inc., as it's called, Chase Underground, whatever, or you're just searchers who have seen statements and heard statements from Forrest. So I have the wrinkles that are in the hand, we have coinage, opuses, which go to the word, magnum, whatever it is. New things. I'll come across that in a bit. So if I can make it work, so the word works, so pioneering and finds, the leaps and devices, which the leap was probably not the leap of faith as such, but he was going to jump from the top of that, whatever it was, onto that tree, and also leaping out of a crippled aeroplane. And then we have words like drive, you drive to the first clue, got the enterprise. Spirit, it's there in spirit. Daring, boldness, and go. So why is it that I must, and then is that imagination? Why is it that I must go? So courage and braveness and stuff like that we have. The welly, I don't know if he was throwing those wellies. Wisdom, genius. Just words that I know that for the backbone, which is the spine and the fetish, possibly. Metal, also need metal and resolve, so it's basically saying you need imagination and imagination. Smarts, more sense. Life, which is basically the thrill, which is the minute punch from the nose, so we've got punch. Tenacity, so he wasn't short of tenacity, so he maybe wasn't short of imagination or passion. So we want to share in that passion. So passion is a word next to next to tenacity. Bounce, you want to see how high he would bounce, so how much you could imagine potentially. Resolve, so now we have the metal and the resolve, so we have imagination and imagination. Would help. Again, we have power, ginger. Just trying to go through the words that you absolutely should know if you're going to chase. So gas, starch, beans, steam. And here's a word that people were a bit surprised by, the burr, so the B-I-R-R, meaning imagination. So that was when it was cold, instead of writing B-U-R-R, if my memory is right. So vinegar, effort. So your imagination will be worth the cold. And I think worth is here as well. So your imagination will be imagination cold. But you know what I'm trying to say. So stuff, don't mess with my imagination. Hunger is becoming a reality, so hunger is there, will is there, thirst, itch, fight, tuck, balls, heart. So my imagination is in Yellowstone. I imagine in Yellowstone. Or that could be the as, the first word as, and the last word gold is Yellowstone. And once in a while is just as. As meaning once, up on, and while. Possibly. Or not be, but I'm just saying, here's the information, and this is the coincidences that comes from that. So you need mental resolve, and you have to move with confidence. So confidence is a word. Thrust, bang, faith, bravery, spine, which is similar to the backbone that I was talking about earlier. Purpose, so taking on a purpose of its own. A bottle, sand. So back to still the same people. Hello, those who have not wrote anything. Seems to be more people in than writing stuff. So hello to you. Sorry if you don't enjoy these sort of things, and I'm sorry that I can't show you it. But like I say, £150. I'm thinking, how am I going to spend that to do one or two shows? Like I could have done it today, but it seems a lot of money for me. Sorry. Daydream, trance. So that's Mr. Rave, Forrest Fenn. Stargazing, brown study. Staring into space. So basically, Forrest made a statement that if you see someone staring off into the distance, then leave them alone. Thought, reverie, inner zone, study, rapture, drift, so shift and drift, thinking, deep thinking using logic, reflection, basically the bathroom video where there was mirrors and Forrest was showing his reflection. So whether that be self-reflection or there are three things that you should be finding that may be not real, just a reflection. The fog, lull. So maybe Teletubby Land, navel gazing, maybe umbilical, or marvel gazing. So reverie again, sleep, coma. I see the idea again. Deep thought, picture, logic, belief. I can't remember if Forrest talks about amnesia. It seems to ring a bell, but I can't remember it. I can remember it, but I can't remember what it's about. Prayer. A tendency to forget. A brown study. Train of thought. So think. A kid really has time to think. So a kid really has time to imagine. Have shyness. So could that be the shy guy, the imagination guy from back east? Probe. So when I first came into this AGK, talk about probe, prod, dissecting stuff and whatever. Finding. So Forrest said this would be to aid the finder, not the seeker. So if you could find something that Forrest was giving you, then at each point from then on, you would understand what was going on. Once you found the first thing, and Forrest said it would be academic, so solve the first two clues, and you're 50% there, hypothetically speaking, or something like that. And then you solve that, and it becomes academic, and then want to talk about it, otherwise it becomes abstract. Those sort of words, it's like, what? Trying to work out all of those. So the answer is imagination. So he could be saying the imaginations I already know. If you give me the imaginations, then that's the answers. And it says look is also another word. So those two words are in the poem, and you imagine quickly down. So don't go quickly down, but just imagine going down there, or imagine going into the canyon. Because you've had take, now we have look. So you're imagining doing stuff. You're not doing it, you're just imagining it. I don't say that's correct. I say this is information and these are the things that I thought about. Good, because nobody's writing stuff, so I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. We'll have a drink and stuff. If what happened there? How did I do that? I swapped the tabs over. Oh, I did that. Capital. So you want to take your stuff to the Library of Congress. Capital device. Property method, as much as any man can measure. So here is possibly an important word, but you need all of them. One of them won't take you there. So riches. As I have gone alone in there, and with my treasures bold, I can keep my secret well, and hint of imagination, new and old. So stuff that was imagined before and stuff that had been imagined since. So riches, so we've had look and take, riches, and shift again, so you need to shift, drift, and adjust. Other words, substitute, store, way. There is a way to know. There is imagination to know. If you can imagine correctly, then that may be the way to know. We have a nest egg and we have worth. So we've had effort and worth now that are in the poem. So your imagination may be worth the cold, or your imagination may be imagination. Or, the other way around, depending on what you're trying to imagine that the poem says. Have a picture, have mind's eye, have a fantasy where, on the river bottom you have thinking, have head, dreams, reflection, imaginings, mirror of the mind. So it could be, the three mirrors in the mind of Forrest Fenn in that bathroom picture where there was three mirrors and he was taking a picture and you could see him 3 times. So in his Reverie, the mirror of the mind, the study where you study the poem, analyse, shift, drift, and adjust. And this is just my opinion. This is not cold, just not moving. So knowledge, reading. So I talked about Mario Redding in some other videos. He was doing some predictive stuff, not me, someone else. So read what the poem says. So in your imagination, it's a reading, so you can read the poetry. So poetry was a word that I talked about already. So reading poetry, take again, feeling, grip, model. So is that the model that Forrest? And they're different, different times it talks about a model of something, but is that the model car that Bill keeps going on about? A plan, so you don't want to make plans because they're antagonistic to freedom. Hold, daydream, pipe dream. The clue. So is the imagination the 9 clues? There are 9 clues in the poem. If you follow them precisely, will lead to the end of my rainbow. So wouldn't it be funny if imagination was rainbow or treasure even? And if you follow the 9 imaginations, it would lead to the end of my imagination and the treasure. So imagining, design, position, analysis, realizing, way of thinking, there is a way to know. Can, which I've talked about in other videos, intention, message, meaning, same way as I'm not going to do again, so nightmare brain, those sort of things. Gut feeling, look again, thing, riff, prediction, worry, head trip. So remember, in indulgence as well, but it's not written down on a computer, it's in my head, so it could be just in my imagination. Eggs in moonshine, could that be I have a different reason why that picture's there, but the lumberjack, Jack cutting down Forrest, and could that dove have eggs in moonshine? Maybe not. Maybe it's something else, but it's a thought. Jam tomorrow. That's nothing to do with what Forrest says. I'm just reading it. ID or ID. So the ID card at the front of the book is Forrest Fenn, and yet what you're seeing there is a fake ID because obviously he's not 6 foot and not however old he's supposed to be, etc. So there's a fake ID at the front of the book. Something to think about. Spirit, heart, being, core, breast, nature, stuff, marrow, makeup, women, false advertising, women wear makeup, will, life, thought, entity, which is a word that we had, which was people jumping up and down over it. Spirituality. Remember, I had to look at these words and think, oh, is this what Forrest is saying? We have to look up. So we've got spirituality. We have the inner child. Show it to a child. We have crux, which is probably the star that people talk about, or other stuff. Let's see where it gets interesting. So the importance. I used to say the importance of being earnest. The name of the game, Maori, person, and I. So the word I, or the letter I, depending on how you want to say it. It is a word, but it's also a letter. So the imagination is just I. So as I have gone alone in there, I can keep my secret where. So imagination can keep the secret. I don't say that's what it is. I say, look, here's the information. This is what I did. And I worked around that information that I was given by Forrest. So in the New Mexico videos, he was told that he was a staple, and he said that's the first time I've been called that. And then they changed it to mainstay. So basically, he was an imagination, and he was still an imagination because mainstay, New Mexico mainstay, is no different than New Mexico staple. He's still a New Mexico imagination. So bottom, we'll move the bottom. This root, base, blood. So we have make believe, charade, daydreaming, dream, play acting. So in the chase, are these people real or are they just acting? So we have a game, we have fakery, we have disguise, we have fairy tale, we have sham, we have story. So it's important to the story. So it's important to the game, it's important to the fabrication, it's important to the play acting, it's important to the disguise, it's important to the pretense. If you're trying to set up a surprise party, then you have to play act, you have to pretend, you have to do everything that you can in order that they don't know what's really going on. Even though it's a good thing that's going on, you don't want them to know the answer. So it becomes an illusion. Mario versus Pac-Man, yes. Yes, I think Pac-Man's going to win though. Hi Bill, you're right. So, for me, it's not, some people look at it and say, oh, it's a sham. I look at it and say, no, it's part of the story. It's part of the dream, it's part of the daydreaming, it's part of the fantasy. And, I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. I am saying I'm right. I'm saying I'm correct in the sense that I'm trying to understand what Forrest is saying. But I'm not discounting anybody who puts something else out there because the contradictions are there for everybody to see. I choose to prefer to believe that Forrest was honest in all that he did, whoever major Forrest Burke fan is. So now we have rainbow. So I said earlier, wouldn't it be funny if we had the word rainbow? So now this could be that the nine clues lead to the end of his imagination and the treasure. So you have 9 imaginations, and if you find those imaginations, you end up with the end of the rainbow and the treasure. So you end up at the end of his imagination, and right next to it, like I say, if you download the Hippo Word app, you'll see I'm not making it up. I'm not trying to make you believe anything. Right next to rainbow is Reverie. So Forrest talks about his reverie. So is he talking about one and the same thing? His imagination, his rainbow, and his reverie are the same thing. And then just along is thought, and just below that is head trip. So it's in my head. It's in my pipe dream. It's in my wish. It's in my desire. It's in my mental picture. It's in my mirage. These things he's talked about in the mirage and stuff. I'd like to say flight of imagination with him, flying planes and that, but it's not what he said, so ignore that. So an empty wish. So I hid a chest in the Rocky Mountains. Was that wish empty? It could be M-T, just the letter M, letter T. But this is an empty wish, spelled empty wish. So is that a possibility? You have to think, what if? So product of someone's imagination. Hope. I wanted to give people imagination out of depression. So hope, fond hope. Cloud Cuckoo Land, Utopia. Stardust. So I've just talked about the book Once Upon a While, could be as, as. And on there are stars. So is that the stardust, the imagination, the catching, the star, the imagination. The unrealized dream. Hopes, plans, plans are antagonistic to freedom. And then we have similar words: reverie, escapism, daydreams, mirage, vision, romance, escape. So slip out the fire window, step out the window, down the fire escape. So is he just saying that he was using his imagination while he was in class? Trying to go as quick as I can. So the bubbles that he talks about, the dream, matrix, make believe, thought, hope, rainbows, fairy tale, phantoms, stardust, lies, not hiding, limbo. Again, another thing that was talked about, but people think what? And then we have the obvious, it's absolutely talk about game playing, role playing, acting, acting out, game playing, play acting, and role play. So, was Forrest warning us, that this is going to happen? And was that at that point that he said, think nice thoughts? That's me taking flack, drain the pond. Around that time before the chest was found, he gave that information that we should think nice thoughts of him, even though there was no incentive to think otherwise. Nobody was thinking, I say nobody, Josh Jordan might have been with Amber and Kendall, and even Amber synonyms to one of the words, but Josh Jordan and maybe one or two people might have, had bad feelings towards Forrest with regard to what was happening in the chase. But the majority of the people had only good words for Forrest. And yet before the chest was found, he said, think nice thoughts, which to me preempts the fact that, people are going to think bad things. Oh, retracted a message. Cut out and frontman. Oh, talking about that frontman. Fenn seems to think that I'm part of the chase and that I am paid to put out information. And, that is so far from the truth, it's unreal. Anything that I come up with has been with me from the start of my chase. And recent stuff has been, me talking to Davey B. So if you think that me and Davey B are part of the chase, I don't know where you get that information from. Unless you know more than you're saying and you think that we are saying the right things. That's all I can imagine, because no, no, no way. This was a lot of hard work, and I'm not kidding you. It's hard to describe how much it took. It would have been easy to give up, really easy to give up. So ego, head, focus, Did a video about COP, like Liverpool football team. It's like, what? COP? But yeah, it's their thought, spirit, the IQ, knowledge, logic. More sense again. Dear Prudence. Prudence is a tact, marbles. Genius again, logical thought. Learning, so, was it imagination? So cunning, like, a fox maybe. Need, note. Fire, passion, spirit, life, heat, light, drive, welly. Oops. Oh, thanks, Street, for that. This is like something. Ginger, go, snap, bounce, juice, vinegar, beans, gas, starch, feeling, spark, burr, kick, love, bang. Just trying to do the ones that tenacity, that you will, heart, hunger, resolve, metal, happiness. So imagination is the pot. Happiness is the pot. So in your imagination, with your metal, resolve, gas, all of those words you just had, one after the other, is Forrest talking about happiness, which is the pot. Boldness, backbone, grit, pepper. Is that a Dr. Pepper? So is there something imagination? This doctor synonym for something else, and he's saying something imagination. Worth looking. Anxiety, spring. You're going to find it on spring break, but other springs as well. Bob. The rapture again, the flare. So, excuse me. So, should I light the flare, tell him where I am? Should I make the radio call, etc., etc.? So, no, the flare to tell him where he was. So, blow smoke or whatever you call it. And then should I make a call to get me out? So, the anger said that man was angry when the stuff was thrown in the trash and he had to calm him down. The daring, bravery, bottle, steal, thrill. So the imagination of the chase. The thrill of the chase. The spice. So spice, bite, wouldn't bite down hard on a biscuit. The flurry, so the snowflake that was talked about, snow in the scrapbook. Confidence, so the finder solve will move with confidence. So we'll move with imagination. In the imagination is where they should be able to find it. Will, faith, tenaciousness, stuff, kicks, flutter, so a butterfly becomes a flutter by. Storm, stew, rise, makeup, taste, salt, Dunkirk spirit, yan, purpose. I'm going past some because I didn't think the effort. I won't go past that one. There's some that I definitely know, but I don't know if I want to try and put it into your mind if it's not already there. Pressure, so we've had head and now we've got pressure. So You know, talking of head pressure, etc. Bible verses won't take you to the treasure, but they're offered as good solutions, which means there could be an answer. They're an answer that is already thought of, already known, but not the answer that potentially could be correct. Spine again, weight. Weight is in how heavy, not granite. Is granny there as well? So there was the issue that these people whose names are in the poem and in the words that are used, suddenly turn up and you think, oh, so vengeance, bulldog spirit, fun. Forrest says, I'm just having fun. Is he just having imagination? Stout-heartedness. I wonder if you need some stout-hearted men. Aim, manner. That's what we to Montana, to be fair. And Eden, all those sort of words that turned up. Beef, character, abandon. So which fool would abandon this treasure? So which fool would imagination this treasure? Point. Endeavor. Should I succeed in this endeavor? Should I succeed in this imagination? This thing that I've imagined. Could I succeed in it? Could I make it work? Love of life. Pitch. Hope we've got something to eat and something to drink, and sock. So some wet socks. An arm. That arm. On the gantry or whatever, and also Dizzy Dean. Now this pow is either pow as in smack in the face type pow wow, or POW. That it's not, as long as the person knows what it is that you're saying. But any of those are in the chase as we know it, especially cow pros, cow power. But there are other, like the POW that you talked about. The drama that we have, obviously. Don't want to do anything that is a maybe. True grit. So there was a John Wayne true grit period that we went through. Wind would affect the chest, so there'd be wind in one's sails. Play. Use of logs for entertainment. Sorry. And then this sort of lends towards what Barb was saying: tomfoolery, clowning, funniness, comedy, joking, revelry again, riot. Rascality. So Forrest said he was a rascal. No, Forrest said he was a maverick, and Cynthia said he was a rascal. So I have the story again, and then the stretch of the imagination. So as much as any man can stretch. So what was any man stretching? Were they stretching the imagination? So we have depth, which is possibly how deep is the whole. Spirit, passion. So Forrest said it was there in spirit, and we should join in the same passion that he has. So we should join in that imagination, and it is there in imagination, potentially, possibly. Those are the things that I was thinking when you look at it and you go, well, hang on a minute, he said this, and this actually does make sense, and this equates to this, and this makes sense. So put them all together, and it does make sense. So we have a feeling and power. Is that Ashley? Bill's writing a lot. I'm not going to get it all, am I? City of London running it all, running all what? No, my audience. Yes, money can't buy happiness. Oh, no, money cannot buy happiness. Right there. How deep is a bullet hole? Hi, Lily. How's it going? Thanks for that video. Like a bridge over troubled waters, that was. Yeah, I wouldn't like to be in there. I would not like to be in that river. It is flowing quick. Real quick. Hunch. opinion. Shot, Bill. So the bullet was imagination. Wow, that's scary. The bullet was shot. So imagination is shot, or shot in the dark even, or a feeling, or an idea, or a ballpark figure, or a given, or if. So imagination is if. If you were braving in the wood, if you've been wise and found the blaze. So in your imagination, did you find these things? Did you find the blaze, and did you imagine the braving in the wood? And it could be, I'm not saying I'm correct. I'm saying I think I'm correct, and then I think we're correct because of the information that we read or imagine. So here is reading or Reading, Mario Reading. So do I imagine that Mario Reading is part of the answer, and he was the one that wrote predictions? So there seems to be predictions in the poem, or imaginations, and is that what the hint? So again, hint. So imagination is a hint. Clue is a hint. So are there imaginations in the book that will help with the imaginations in the poem? Makes sense. So reading between the lines is something that you have to do in the chase. Imagining, thinking, arguments. Remember the argument that was supposed to have taken place. The imagination, maybe, that's supposed to have taken place in the house where they were trying to stop Forrest from carrying on with the chase, or whatever the argument was. Picture, mind, image. So does the image help? Do the images in the Thrill of the Chase book help in regard to the imaginations that you need to have? Knowledge, again, way of thinking. So there is a way to know, Forrest said. There's a way to end the chase, there's a way to know. So, outlook, again, could that be, earlier was outlook and address together, so could that be an email address? Forrest said, is anybody cruising the internet? So the word line, they obviously need a line because Forrest needed a line to find where the chest was. So he needed imagination. He didn't need a physical line, he just needed his imagination to know where the chest was. Ground, foundation, trust. So we had talk about trust being set up, so an imagination being set up. Call, so lots of different calls, but more often than not, he was talking about calling that lady on the exchange and having a long chat with her. Side, proof. So is the imagination the proof that is needed to validate the story? The story is underneath the proof. And underneath story is take. So you have three words that could link and just be imagination. Also the word I. So people talk about the eye. So the eye is the imagination, could be the mind's eye. Then we have the stereotype. Forrest said the kind of person that finds that chest can't keep it quiet. So was he stereotyping that person? But in that, he said the kind of person that finds it can't keep it quiet, then says it was found by a shy guy from back east. So a shy person doesn't seem like the type of person who can't keep it quiet. So we have wisdom, say so. So why is it that I must go? And so hear me all. Gut feeling. So I have a gut feeling that the chest is going to be found. Have the why in there and wherefore. Resolve again, award, formula. So the recipe that Forrest talked about making a cake or whatever. Think, dream, tenor, drift, indulgence. So is indulgence the imagination? Did he name the chest imagination? Was it in the imagination? Could it have been somewhere, but it was there in the imagination, and you weren't it was always in a safe place. And there is a word that I was going to do, which means safe. But if I said that, you go right straight to it. So I can't say it. The fantasy, obviously, and the model again, the ring called the clue. So, say, prospect, plan, studying, input. Not quite put in, but vent. So, is his imagination a vent? Part, any part of some. Answer. So, the imagination I already know. Is it imagination? Is that the answer? 2 cents worth. Vox Populi. Is that a media company, Vox? Possibly, maybe. Worth looking into. Haha, hi Robert, how are you? Double blazes, that sounds like Bill again. If you don't believe in God, he won't talk to you. Imagination creates reality. Every chapter ends with a bullet point. Yeah, square, yes, indeed. And that's why I ended up with squares. Exactly why I ended up with squares. Yeah, spring, snow melt. Thanks, Louis. I think I'll shoot my foot too. I do appreciate you people being here. I know that can't be easy listening to me ramble on. And like I say to those people that weren't here earlier, I was going to do a Zoom. I was going to try and do a Zoom through YouTube, which seemed like an easy thing to do. But then when I tried to do it, it will only allow you to do 40 minutes meetings unless you are a pro customer, which is like 150 quid, 150 pounds. And, I have to try and justify spending 150 pounds on just doing a few, well, one or two of these. Hence, I'm doing it without being able to show you it. Otherwise, if it was cheaper, I might have used the Zoom and share screen facility. So the artifact, the writing, birth, engineering, discovery, and the court case in that being talked about. Dawn, which had me in Wyoming, and doing an anagram solve of a place. The authorship, source. So we had a lot of talk about that at the beginning. So if you get stuck, go back to the imagination. The site, architecture, bearing, solutions. So solutions is imaginations. So they're offered as good imaginations, offered as good solutions, as Forrest said. So if they're offered as good imaginations, what is going to be a correct imagination? These are just, my thoughts as I saw it. So brew, confection, breeding, my father used to breed cows, etc. Leap, leap, coinage, so it's an academic achievement or academic success. So the rest of it is academic. He says he solves such and such, and the rest is academic. Or we could talk about it, but it becomes abstract. Those two statements. So we have reading again or reading. We have tape again. Take. An analysis, which is when you analyze and study the poem. Translation. So the imaginations is a translation. So maybe you have to translate the poem. You have to imagine it and translate it. So therefore, nothing is written down. The chess is not associated with anything other than the imagination that you can come up with. And that becomes more important. So you have these words that don't mean what you think they do. And you have to imagine what the answers are. So whilst your imagination could take you to a place, it doesn't mean that the chest is there. It just means that your imagination takes you there. And you have nothing to associate the chest with that other than what you can imagine. But that imagination could come from Forrest's reverie or his imagination. Because I'm sure Forrest doesn't want to be in our reverie, to share our reverie. He wants us to share his. So we need to be where he is in his reverie, which is what he talked about. So we need to be there. We need to imagine what he imagines. If that makes sense. So, things aren't what they seem. Nothing's as it seems. Words don't mean what we think they do. So it's all fake, but real at the same time. If you understand what I'm trying to say. If you don't understand what I'm trying to say, explain it to me because I don't understand it. Transcription, drift, obviously you have to shift, drift, and adjust. Comment, finding, thinking, acting, look, so imagination's quickly down. And then, 5 lists, decoding, decryption, I, mind, standing upright. We should have better Skippy standing upright. So standing, upright, leaning. So the ears that I was leaning on, the imagination that I was, the ears that I had imagination. Shoes. So Forrest was always losing his shoes. So was he losing his imagination? And in order to follow in Forrest's footsteps, it would be wise of his shadow to step into those shoes. If that makes sense, if you understand what I'm trying to say. If you want to follow what Forrest did, then it'd be wise to be in his shoes. So you need to be in his imagination, in his reverie, which I've just said, the same words here. So where one is at, say so, twist. So is that card game? Study, hold, light, which could be a torch. Abstraction, so it gets abstract. When we talk about it, it gets abstract. So you have to get into the imagination. Note, ideas, feel, thoughts, bias. So Forrest gave us, people say, oh, Jack put out a cognitive bias, was it? I don't know what it was now. Anyway, a bias. So imaginations. Our bias is our imaginations, what we, and I was saying, interpret. It's how we interpret things. And that or perceive, how we perceive things. And that perception becomes our bias. And that bias may or may not be a truth until it is found out that it is correct. Or it may be a bent, which is another word here. So we have a bias and a bent, or a suggestion. So stereotype, dream, command, construct, discovery, interest, fantasy, learning, wisdom, clue, model, reflection, so remember the mirrors, prism, remember the rainbow, and the, not catalyst, the, can't think of it, vein, as in, it could be gold vein, or it could be blood vein. Knowing, so it's important to know what is worth knowing and what isn't. Focus, evidence, bearing, hints. You have the hints and clues. So you follow the clues in the poem with the aid of the hints in the book. So could there be the imaginations in the poem along with the imaginations in the book? So we have reverie, which is important, but Forrest said and gave a clear message being the word, about his awareness, so the awakening. But let's go back. in order to understand something at the point in time that you understand it, he said you would need that aha moment. So he talks about the wrinkle, the big idea. Remember the tune he was talking about, understanding the tune, he would come first in the hit parade or whatever it was. So he was talking about the art of knowing is what is going to make you succeed. That's how I see it anyway. So this is going to make you succeed. Once you know how it is to do what it is that you need to do, then everything becomes easier. So we have aha just as one word and an aha moment as both words, or light bulb moment. So he looked at the light bulb and said, look, there's the advertising on that light bulb. So you have that aha moment, that see the light, as it were. Nightmare, conscious thought, prediction, tickle, the thing, way. There is a way to know. There's a way to find out. I'm leaving that for the finder. Those sort of statements. Revelation, Concord. So we talked about Concord, the plane. People are doing Discord. I'd rather do the Accord, but Concord is the imagination. The schooling, fashion. They talked about survey, confession, indulgence, faith, an aha moment, watching, sixth sense, head trip, temper, character, cast, like when you cast on mold, bronze or whatever, and cast as in acting and stuff. Probe, makeup, touch, please touch. Oh, I nearly finished. That's it. Tactile sense, emotional response, feeling, the impression, awareness. So we'll finish on that actually. Awareness. So when his awareness at that point in the book, he was talking about his awareness and his reverie, and sitting by the fireside and those sort of things. So was Forrest just talking about his imagination? Is this in Forrest's imagination, and is this the best place for us to look in Forrest's reverie? Because Forrest said it was in his head, and all these words take you to that place in his head, whatever that place is. So do you have to understand that to be in Forrest's head, not in your own head, to realize that awareness, to realize that way, those words that are under the imagination? Where are we? Or all of the above. You talk about what double universities are saying. Imagination creates reality. Restream does what Zoom does for free. Restream. So you mean choose that app to do what? Right, I'll have a look at that. Thanks, Bill. If that is Bill. If not, I'm sorry. And thanks, Double Blaze University. You're not really here. You just believe you are through imagination. I'm not there, Bill. I'm here. And I'm imagining that I'm here, and I'm imagining that you're there. Although I could imagine that I am there, and then I wouldn't be able to read this, but it's for electromagnetic. Wow. Still live. Yeah, I started yesterday, which is a true statement. People won't believe that, but it is a true statement. For me, I started yesterday. I started before 12 o'clock midnight, and now it's gone midnight. So therefore, I'm still live, and I started yesterday, even though you may not believe it. Dog food. Fresh pet meatballs with a yum yum face. I'm not quite sure. We are in his past. Yeah, unfortunately, DBU is Good job it wasn't Double Blazes College, otherwise it'd be DB Cooper. Then we'd be in real trouble. Yeah, unfortunately, reading the poem in his past, so I did a video about a statue. If you went to the year 2030 and you bought a statue back that wasn't around at the time that you left, then that statue would exist in 2010 and in 2030. Or there'd be a statue in 2010 now that you bought it back, and there were two statues in 2030. But when was that statue made? It wasn't made in 2010. It just existed in 2030. So between 2010 and 2030, the statue was made. But now you brought it back from the future, and it does exist in 2010. Are there going to be two statues in 2030, or is it the same statue that appears before it was made? Scary, isn't it? You know, did the book and the poem come from the future and was already wrote? As far as I said, I struggled to write the book. Interesting. So in the past, we're in his past. I go Forrest, 9 degree from DBU, Double Blazes University. And like I say, good job it's not DB Cooper, otherwise we would be in trouble. Because if it was DB Cooper, then he is in our past and we are in the future. And he is in the poem. DB Cooper is, wrote about in the poem, along with the flight and everything. If you want to believe those sort of things. So, Restream is an app. Restream does what Zoom does for free. So I can download Restream, and then I can share screen through YouTube while going live. Is that correct, DBU? If you understood what I said, because it was hard to think what I was saying. So basically I want to share the screen while going live on YouTube, and Restream is an app that is free to do that. Restream is a browser app. Yeah, but will it allow me to do what I've just said? Can I share the screen while going live through YouTube? Share my screen, what I have on my screen, while I'm live on YouTube, and the people on YouTube can see what I am streaming, albeit delayed a bit. I should try and look into that, because that's a lot easier than flicking to and fro from the two screens that I've got open. So the whole idea is, if we can make this happen on Friday, hello money, is I want to just put an empty poem up, and then if somebody wants to question the poem, I'll see if I can give you a real-time answer to what the question is. So the poem will be blank. It'll just be the poem. But then, don't say like, what colour underpants am I wearing or stuff like that, because it'll freak me out if it gives the right answer. But if somebody wants to ask a question, and in real time I'll try and answer. I mean, that's saying that I know the poem pretty well, but I might be wrong in that assumption. But I'll try to answer real time the question. So if there's a question about the chase that you want answering, whether it be in the future or in the past, not, where was it, or those sort of things, just, something that you think is chase related. Otherwise, I'll say I don't remember. It's good to see you, Monty. Or he'll read you. You look like a boxer guy. Me? Why does my face look like that? I've been pummeled. Yeah, I've been told quite a few times that I look like different boxers. One was John Conte. One was it Mayweather Floyd? Someone I don't know. Different boxers. I've got that sort of smashed in face. I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment, but or or it means I'm a model who does like Armani adverts with boxer shorts on. One of those. I don't know. I'm not sure what you're trying to say and who that boxer guy is. Not that kind of boxer. Which one are you answering? Not that kind of boxer. A punched in face boxer. Try to just say the truth. So it is good to see you. There are some people. So if Josh came on here, not I have nothing against Josh, but I wouldn't say nice to see you, Josh. I would just say hello, because there would be a fear that it wouldn't be a happy place, and this was about happiness. As far as I can remember, fate deals with four cards and Joker. Happiness is the part, and if happiness is imagination, then what's wrong with some good imagination instead of negative imagination? Now, in with the word imagination, there were some negative words, but like I say, if you're trying to organise a surprise party for somebody, it does look bad. It does look bad, and that the person who you're trying to do the party for may be under the assumption that you're doing something nefarious. You Out late, always on the phone to someone, hanging up when she comes in, or he comes in, or they come in. God, it's hard to know what to say nowadays. Um, it looks bad, and there will be some questioning about the motives of the partner that is there. So my belief is Forrest aimed to do something without people knowing, and that's what all this is about. It's about people not knowing. This chaos is about people not knowing. Now those people could range from people in the Chase community all the way up to the White House. No, could it be the White House? Possibly, but you know what I mean. It could go a long way to people not knowing what Forrest was, what Forrest planned. No, plans imagined. His plans are antagonistic to freedom, so just imagined it and not planned it. Yeah, and that's what I say. But even if he's joshing, Josh is just joshing. Even if he's joshing, and that reminds me of a conversation I had a few years ago about somebody joshing. So that might have been Josh himself then. And when I say a few years ago, I mean several, or more than three maybe. But if he's playing a part, that would still have to come across as negative, wouldn't it? And it's like we don't really need it. So I think you're just joshing as well, double blazers. Not in a good way, not in a bad way. But what is it that you're asking the wrong person here? I'm not even awake. I have no idea. This world is passing me by in regard to any and all of that stuff. And I'm not being offensive or horrible. I'm just saying I don't understand it. I understand it, and I have no qualms about anybody's imaginations or anybody's thoughts and feelings, or all means the same thing. Imagination means thought, feeling, etc., etc. And people get offended if you use the wrong word, but it's not meant. Rape, Forrest used. Crippled, Forrest used. Easy, Forrest used. But they don't mean what you think they do. They mean what Forrest thinks they do. And if you get to know what Forrest is about, you'll know that none of those words that were supposed to be offensive or taken offensive by people were meant to be offensive. They were meant to be enlightening and helpful. But the thing nowadays is, whilst you don't think that you're saying something harmful, people are taking it as harmful. Whether it's a true feeling or just getting on the bandwagon and saying whatever. But it's got to the point where I have no idea. I have no idea how to address some people for fear of upsetting them. Crazy. Stop retracting those messages. I want to read them first. What is it that are true? Oh, mysterious writings. One of those for a while. Treasure Hunters winner out of 3 episodes. Oh, that's I haven't visited. That's I didn't go that often to mysterious writings. Should have done. Maybe it's like Highlander. Yes, maybe it is. What did I watch the other day? The Immortals. Something related to Highlander. That takes me back to Excalibur and the sword and stuff, which is weird. Am I getting the same message? Talk about golden key nuts. If you're out there, you stop it. You gave Susie Fenn. Where is Susie anyway? Hi Susie, if you're about somewhere. Getting all these messages up. I don't know why. So my laptop is like, I don't know. It's just not very responsive. I've just done, however long I've been on here, 1 hour and a half, and my screen that I was looking at and talking to you about is still got the circle going round and round and round and round. It hasn't actually clicked on and said, yes, you're on the right page. While I can still read it, it's still going around and doing crazy stuff. And sometimes, it takes me like 5 seconds to just like drag the cursor across. I'm like, there, there. So it's difficult to actually do something. Won't you wait for me? Hi, Don. Yes. Alabama. Is she off to Alabama? Don Quixote. I haven't seen that name. Or have I seen it before? Maybe once. Yeah, there are many people in the chase, to be fair, that I would listen to. Some because the information is helpful, and some because of the infectious personality. And some I would sit through because I wanted to know what could be the negative side of the chase, because those words synonym and they have negative aspects to them. So what is it possible that they could mean, and how would that affect the chase, not the solve? So the solve is, according to Forrest, done, complete, finished. The treasure has been found. No, not the solve. The treasure has been found, so that's ended, finished. The chest has been solved. The door prize has been sold, etc., etc. So we should know. Kiwi, hi Kiwi, how are you doing? I have no idea what OYE stands for. Oi. Not as a recollection. So is that 3 words or just 1 word? Didn't I see Mary in a Tenacious D video or 2? Tenacious D. Well, I'm not sure of tenacity, so it could be. Crazy. So can you explain what oi is? Is it just like my version of oi is OI? Oi. But yours is OYE. So I haven't registered it as a word. But it's good to see you here. Tire. Yeah, I have no idea what that means. Dave, you might. I have no idea what that word means. Almost something down. No. So those people still in the chase that are visual and heard. Whilst I can deduce who they are or why they're saying what they're saying, basically. And there are some that I have no idea who they are, but may understand what they are saying. And that is because the information coming from Forrest, in my opinion, was taught. So information coming from Forrest, I thought that I could understand because I was trying to do what was said. But information coming from other people is their interpretation of what they wish to say. Can't catch chat at the moment. Fair enough. Fair enough, man. I hope it's a what's the word? Anticipated dinner. So something you've been looking forward to and can't wait to have. Supper. I haven't heard that, Luli. I don't know. Pretend to be friends with everyone. I don't think Street could pretend to be friends with everyone. I think he's pretending to not be friends with everyone now, if that makes sense. So he pretended to be friends with everyone, and now he's pretending that he wasn't friends with everybody. Maybe he's got his money and he's gaming now. He doesn't care. So, oh, don't. Lasagna. Did you hear my stomach go there? Cheers, double blazers. Yeah, I don't know why. Like I say, if Golden Keynuts is out there and feels like donating a laptop, I'm in the market for one. And this is new. So, as I've just said, the information that I get, I try to analyze. And I've just said, it's hard to know whether the words that I hear and read are just the normal everyday usage of those words, or whether they are, hidden meanings, subterfuge, subtle hints. So as Forrest was talking to me, I would try and understand it a different way than if, say, Lulu Bell was talking to me, because I trust Lulu Bell. So I would believe that what she says is normal, everyday American English that I can just read and not have to worry that there's a hidden meaning behind it. Now, for Street to say that, ooh, he's street and he's street turf. Yeah, that's the song. Can't remember how it really goes. Yeah, let's pay it for 6 months. Ah, right. Yes. Well, I believe that it's already here. But yes, Aquarius, film. So I'm an Aquarian, and have been looking up the age of Aquarius, and Pluto, and the Pleiades, and all those things that are going on, and Aldebaran, etc., 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 and Gemini. And so the age of Aquarius was sung about in a song, and supposedly good things would happen at that point in time. And Pluto in 1776 was, around, and that's when things, changed in America and changed in the world, because Cook was in Australia as well at the same year. So big things happened. So maybe we should expect, big things to happen. Not raining here. We are in the moonlight shadow. I can just see the moon. And you know the moon in the book with the dove? It's that sort of moon, but it's the other way around. So why is that the case? Why is it a right to left moon, not a left to right moon with the dove sitting there? With potentially eggs in moonshine, which is imagination. So in the book, is it saying that Jack, the lumberjack, cut down Forrest and Forrest is gone? So why must I go? And where did Forrest go? And why in the book, the Thrill of the Chase book, why can you see the stars in the moon? What do they represent? Because if that was really the moon, if that was a picture of the moon, you wouldn't see those stars because the moon would be in the way. But those stars must be showing you something, otherwise you wouldn't see them. Just because it looks like a crescent doesn't mean there's nothing actually physically there. So those stars behind the moon wouldn't see. Excuse me. So Forrest must have put them there to say, "Oi, like Kiwi's done. Oi, here's something. Have a look at this." So, again, images means imagination. So in your imagination, you can see something, possibly. It will arrive at the end of 2024. Right. I'm January 28th. I'm just saying the truth. Lily, thanks, then. David B, you awake? 2023. Yep, retrograde in Aquarius where it continues. Yep. Thanks, David. Come just in time. Just talk about that. The Aquarians are Feb 1st through to Feb 10th. I thought it was January 20th to that. Oh, true Aquarians. Oh, it's like that, is it? It's like that, is it? True Aquarians. Oh, so I'm not a true Aquarian. Yeah, when he gets back on his back of bicycle. Let's go check the river again. Woo, we're getting on supper time there, isn't it, Lily? Well, you're just 5 minutes away. Morning, Davey. Live. Yes, he is. Oh, you can't say his dog's a jerk. I know you're not saying his dog's a jerk. But according to Dal, Jack is a jerk. Well, synonym wise, Dal is not lying. Jack is a jerk and a joker. And fate deals you 4 cards and a jerk. 28th, yeah, 28th of January. Not a true Aquarian, but I'm, trying hard. Thought I was in the middle. I thought I was going to be more Aquarian than anyone because I'm in the middle of both. But January 20th is a Capricorn. Yeah, I'm 28th. I thought it goes from the 20th to whatever of February. I thought Aquarius was. Is Capricorn the 19th? Or is it the 21st to... I thought it was my 24th. Oh, right. I'm lost in my imagination. Got a little goat in his Aquarius. I'll retract that statement in the New Yorker documentary. Yeah, it was interesting to know that imagination was a fish story. So, it's hard for me to get upset that there's a fish called Brown and 9 Mile Hole and blah, 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 when, part of that relates to an imagination. To a goatfish. So, where does warm waters hold? That's the question. And imagination talks about astrology. So, could there be a reference to the astrology and where warm waters hold? Why is everybody a fish? That's a good movie. I'm not sure which movie that is. Indy 5 might be a good movie. The 20th makes sense for you, I thought. Well, I'm definitely, as far as I know, unless they change it on me, because it's supposed to be 13, isn't there? 13 houses. And even that, astrology and Homer Brown. A guy can really think. A kid can really think in a graveyard. 13 houses, Homer Brown. I wonder. Was it Capricorn? Or was it Saturn? Basically, I think we are all goldfish being used for our energy. Well, we're all looking out, and somebody's definitely looking in. I think Lucky was saying, Lily, that he was taking back Jack as a jerk. But, truthfully, as a synonym, that's a correct statement, and I would not take that back. Jack is a jerk. And I can prove that in black and white or whatever writing it's in. Jack is a jerk, as along with the Joker and everything else that Jack means. Was visible this week. How about being a little fish in the big pond? Can't I be a big fish in a small pond? I'm sick of being a little fish in a big pond. I want to be a big fish in a small pond. Fourth. Is that Nicky Swan or just Swan? Hi, Swan. Fourth house. These people with so much knowledge, scary. You can pull up the New Yorker documentary. Yeah, people think that Aquarius is a water sign, but it's not. It's a water bearer, not actually a water sign. So, very confusing. Are you being truthful or funny with the Venus and Uranus? So, yeah, at the moment, the Neptune, Venus, and a long line where you can make all the lines cross is possible at this moment in time. Actually, yes. Yes, an air sign. And there are no friendlies up there, apparently, in that air. So don't worry about it, he says. Actually, I can't show you it now. She's gone down. Like I say, the Venus was bright in the sky and the moon was chasing her. So rather like, waiting for Forrest. Yeah, Lucky's going to have to give you that information, Lily, about Dell retracting. Got me at it now. Yeah, I was going to take one. But like I say, by the time the Moon and Venus are together, in the way that I want them to be, so like really close, really close. There's a house that is in the way. So Venus disappears beyond the house and the Moon's still there. That was Jupiter and the Moon. Oh right, was it? Jupiter's shining brighter than I thought. But I'm not disagreeing. Jupiter, Zeus, who cares? So me and David had a conversation about those sort of things. We would rather look at the Roman statements than the Greek statements because the Greeks don't put that many people in the sky, but the Romans do. So it's not who you are, so you can make them think you are. These gods through the ages are the same gods, they just have different names. So Jupiter and Peggy, or Jupiter and no, Jupiter and Forrest and Peggy, or Forrest and June? That is the question. I know what I mean. Can I speak to the, I think I read all those. Yeah. You didn't answer me, Amy. Can I be a big fish in a small pond? I'll tell you what you could do for me, Amy, if you don't mind. If you wouldn't mind. I know I'll probably do it myself, to be fair. I should. But, mm. So, Queen, haven't heard of her for a while. And Laurie, or those two people, if you speak to them, hear of them, could you say hi? I'm surprised that she's not actually in chat, because Queen used to always be in chat. A bit like Hooley, she used to always be in chat. Um, they don't come and visit me. So, if anybody, well, it doesn't have to be Amy, it could be anybody. Except for David, because David doesn't speak to him either. So, if anybody is in chat with them or in touch with them, can you say hi from me? I haven't heard from them for a while. Who else have I not heard of? Can't think. So chat is like full of the same people, and it doesn't really matter which. Well, yeah, it does. So people like Bobby Brass and Steve Klein, they're selecting their video watching. Now, that's not to say they only watch those people. They post in chat on those videos, but I don't really see them post in, well, maybe K-Pros as well, post in many other places. No one's searching anymore, are they, Amy? I hope not, anyway. Well, just, if anybody does bump into them or speaks to them or hears of them, just say hi, because I miss these people when they pop in, and say stuff. I'll probably get in touch. I never said I played everybody. I said I BS and lied to bullshitters and lied. Matter of fact, I should do. And that's what I thought. I didn't think Street would play everybody and whatever. So just a misunderstanding, so that's okay. That's okay. Hi, Street. Hope you're doing all right. Yeah, I didn't think that was going to be the case, but it's quite easy to make that sort of mistake because Street has quite a few Bud Light, and those words are sometimes. Well, mind you, it's difficult to understand my words, to be fair, sometimes, and I don't have Bud Light. So why was K-Pro stopped putting out content? Is she mumped? Does that mean? Or caught? Okay, I didn't know she was stopped putting out content. Maybe I should watch more. Good to read your Street. Playing in live is the same. Yeah, but like I said, I've just read Imaginations, and that's, try to make the analogy, if that's the word, of, trying to organise a secret party. Sometimes you lie. You're on the phone forever and you say, who's that? And you just say, well, I know nobody. And they think, you're talking to your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your other half, somebody else. And you come home late and it really looks bad, but, you're trying to do a good thing. So sometimes you have to lie in order to make things happen. for the good. And there is a necessary evil apparently in the chase, which could be Cynthia, could be Capro, or it could be anybody else. But I try not to make a judgment, because if everybody is playing, then they all have a part, and each of those parts has to make the whole work. Otherwise, it's going to ruin everything. So the potential is that everybody is a goodie. That's the potential. And that's how I try to see it. And I say about Josh, but once one person starts talking negative, then the whole chat goes negative, even if it's only playing. Some people don't want to start the ball rolling, but once it starts rolling, they don't mind, helping to push it along a bit. Yeah, maybe the hunters realized it. So, as I saw it, Forrest was involved in a dare, and then involved us in another dare, or the same dare. And wondered if he could make it happen. But in order to make it happen, he said that he doesn't mind having help. So it depends on who offered up the dare and who was the person who accepted it, and then who are the people that helped to make it happen. And Forrest said, "Don't pay any bets." Well, you'd be surprised what bet is a synonym of. And could be a reason maybe why that statement was made. And these are all in my imagination. They're not. While it's potentially real, it's still imaginary, or in my reverie, if you wish. Uh-oh, the picture's gone. I don't know what's happened there. I don't know if I'm still alive or what. Okay, let's do that. Hit the button, guys. Morning, Rob. You're still cheating, even if nobody comes. Not sure what that means. If you're still cheating, even if nobody comes. I'm not sure what that means. If you talk about the party, then it's just about organising something without the other person knowing, and them thinking that you're having an affair. And there's no cheating going on. There's just trying to achieve something without, whether it be the government, knowing, or just the chase community knowing, or just his mum knowing. I'm not going to tell. I wouldn't even tell my mother, let alone anyone else. So, it's in my head. It's not written down on a computer. It's in my head. What are those statements saying, or could be saying? Yeah, don't pay any alphabets. Cool. So, if you look up ABCs, you'll be surprised what that means. One of them is rules. So Forrest had 109 rules. So, and we had to understand what the hints and the clues were. So if they were imagination, which is more important than knowledge, we have the knowledge and knowledge of those words, but they don't mean what we think they do. So therefore, Forrest told us, maybe you need to imagine something more. Maybe things are not what they seem, which is play acting, playing a role, potentially. So most of those things that Forrest has said come back to the imagination. So what was Forrest saying potentially in all of the statements that was made. You won't find it where you're looking. Solve the first two clues, you're 50% the way there. Metaphorically speaking, solve the first two clues. It's academic after that. What do all those words mean, and why did Forrest say them? And how do they affect the solve that you have, or the solution that you have? So I did all of these things. I did lots of different solutions, and then said, nope, can't be that because Forrest said this. No, can't be that because Forrest said this. No, it can't be that. And then, I had to whittle it down. And Forrest talked about whittling, and talked about, the ashes flitted down to the mountain and those sort of things. And it was as though, well, put it this way. In the book, Forrest talks about basically stealing words from another author and writing his book, or saying that the author wrote about him, and then someone comes along and says they have a solve about a book which has the same information that Forrest Fenn's book has. But that's exactly what he wrote in his book. So why wouldn't that be a reality? Why couldn't this person who found this book have the same information that's in the thrill of the chase? Because that's exactly what Forrest said in his book. When he wrote that book, he was writing about me. So, it's quite possible that there is another book that has the information, and it could be potentially correct, and it could be potentially just right. And it could be what Forrest knew the answer to. It could be part of the chase. So all the information, it seems, is leading everybody to a certain point. And I think we just have to believe that everybody has, their part to play. They're any part of some. So, if people dismiss what, I'm not sure who it is that's saying it, but if people dismiss that, I find it incredible, because Forrest talked about it in the book. He basically said, look, here's some information that talks about another book, and it's similar information, and I was dared to write this book. Maybe not dared, but I was going to write the finish to this book, or the ending to this book, or whatever it was. Granny, woohoo! What is in reverse? The ending. We're just wondering about who's riding the bike. Are we all on the same bike going backwards? Nice to read you, Granny. See, here's another person that I would look at and go, wow, look at this information that's coming out. And sometimes it would be opposite of what I try to portray, but it's factual information. It actually means what is said that it means. Only has one point of view. It just has that point of view. And if I look at it, I think, well, actually, it says this as well. So it's like, wow, they know a lot, but they're only putting one side of the story out, which is what I was saying about Josh. Whilst it could be good information, it's like, it's too far on the black side rather than on the white side. So yeah, good to read you, Granite. Do you want to call by your first name or your last name? Yeah, shy guy. He's another one. Definitely negative to start with. Doing silly things like stalking Indy, putting, not just stalking Indy, but stalking Forrest, saying that he knew where he was, that he was alive, he was going to the ranch, etc., etc., etc. And then, he's like a born again Christian. So it's hard to know what's going on there. But again, it's good information. It's like, you shouldn't ignore the information that's coming out, although you should treat it as entertainment. But then if you entertain something, you have to use it, if that's what entertaining is. Yeah, so in my early videos I said, if the answer is found south of Santa Fe, I wouldn't be upset, I wouldn't be surprised. The information that came out was contradictory, so you can't believe, words don't mean what you think they do, and nothing's as it seems. So you have to try and understand the whole. Somebody was talking about context the other day. The information that was coming out was not in any sort of context, but that's the whole chase. The whole chase is in no context, and you have to try and understand the context before you can make a decision. And that's how metal resolve and all that stuff is crazy. So difficult, but not impossible. It almost seems impossible, but not impossible. Well, at least Frank is go down street. Cheers. Is that addressed to me? Hey, Golden Key. Oh, it's changed to Golden Key Growers. I was just hinting that, in order that you're not sexist, you should offer up a free laptop to a different gender. I can't say male because I'll probably get told off. But I think it is Golden Key Nuts, just changing that. So hi. If not, good helping, then hi anyway. Oh, Jay Wood, there's a name I haven't seen for a while. Which GPS solver are you talking about? Was it precise? There were two different versions of it, and I'm not sure if that was precise. And definitely not homophones and kangaroo words. I don't know how precise that was. Mr. J Wood, or Miss J Wood, or Mrs. J Wood, or 13, Lucky 13. Yeah, that is, and again, part of making it happen. The kind of person that finds that chest can't keep it quiet. So everybody's found the chest and they're all shouting and screaming. And, Jack outed himself, didn't have to, and yet Jack is a shy guy. So, and Jack proved he was a shy guy because he never did anything. He just sort of, blended into the background. So that statement doesn't ring true in regard to Jack, but does ring true in regard to everybody else. And then you have to think, well, Forrest said, don't tell. I won't tell my mother, so, and yet all these people who said they found the chest are all telling, which is what Forrest said. The kind of person who finds that chest can't keep it quiet. So is it part of making it happen? You savant now as well. So even that word is a synonym of a important word, along with but. Yes. What was that yes to? It's been the only precise soul presented so far. I'm trying to work out what that is exactly saying. Are you saying that it has a precise location, or that the method of a GPS is the only precise solve? So according to the poem, there is a GPS solve, and there's a GPS solve that is going to be incorrect, and there's a GPS solve that's going to be correct. If that makes sense. And so why is it that I Must Go could help understand why you can have a correct GPS solve? And I believe there is a GPS solve, and I said that when they came out with it, but it's not homophones and kangaroo words. And what they were suggesting to be homophones and kangaroo words weren't that at all. So while I didn't disagree with the possibility of a GPS solve, I did strongly object to the fact that it was claimed that that was the way of doing it. But isolate is a good solution. So just looking at it, reading backwards, The first three letters do say ISA. Well, again, I try not to insult people, because if it is part of making it work, then they're just good actors. They're not sad people. I think only when there is a resolution will we know whether they are sad people or actors, or they will definitely be sad people because they'll be very upset. So they'll definitely be sad then. But I reserve judgment in that some of the information that's given, and you can call me crazy, I know I'm a sad person, but I believe most of the information I get from the poem is 100% correct. Most of it, not all of it, because some of it could be just my confirmation bias. That was the word I was looking for, confirmation bias. Hi, Wig, how are you? Mercury. So that was the messenger. So we feel connected to Mercury. My first videos were about trying to give a message that this was a big thing, more than just a chest, and was hidden in the words in the poem. Those words had to be imagined. They weren't written down. Those words weren't wrote down, written down. They weren't written. You had to imagine those words. You had to imagine, or try to be in a reverie with Forrest, but they had to be his reverie. It's not yours. They're not your imaginations. You have to try to imagine what Forrest was imagining. That's just an opinion. I'm not saying it's factual evidence. Saying that's the opinion, and that's what I get from the words that Forrest used. Rightly or wrongly, the interpretation or perception of someone will be only found out to be factual if they are factual when it comes to the end. And we can agree and disagree about the same thing. So if Street says it's lost in thought, that could be reverie. And if I say it's imagination, that could be reverie. Both of us are correct in that we are in reverie, but I believe I am in imagination. And Street believes it's lost in thought. But we're both in reverie, so we agree. So I'm not going to argue, because we agree. So, there's a way to know, Forrest said. I'm leaving that for the finder. And, the information is there to aid the finder, not the seeker. And all of those bits of information I've tried to connect. They all have to connect. I can't choose some information and ignore others. I have to use, above 5,000 feet, below 10,200. I have to use that information because that's what Forrest said. So every bit of information that Forrest said, I have to try and link. And if it doesn't link, then I go, well, it can't be that then, because Forrest is a liar. Now, when I say link, I mean there is a simple solve, which everyone's going to think when they hear it, why didn't I think of that? And there is also a difficult but not impossible. Difficult but not impossible solve. So those two things don't link. So do I have to have two different links? Do I have to have the simple links? And do I have to have the difficult but not impossible links? So whilst I have to link everything, maybe I have to link them separately, not together, to understand that there was a chest that was going to be found by Jack, was going to go to a heritage auction, was going to have the Tesoro, Salgado, whatever it is, and the solicitor that was Andre something or other. All of that information that's in the poem, the heritage auction, all of it, the Far Too Soon video, the in the lawyer's office stuff, the along the Madison, Flat Island, Totem Cafe, all that information. It's difficult, but not impossible. And there's simple, and there's diabolical. There's diabolical information. Forrest was diabolical. Why was he diabolical? So in the chase, I had to work out who was pretending to be who, and which information was I looking at. Was I looking at simple information, precise, direct, straight to it, one foot on top of the other, please touch? Was I looking at that information? Or was I looking at simple, straightforward, when you know what you're going to say, why don't I think of that information? And I separated them as same information, but for different things. That makes sense. Wow. The azure turtle waits at our leisure. Tat. Wow. Tackle. The heart of gold. Just hang it down. Okay, so that looks like a livid, vivid, almost simple, but that's a long, but high anyway. So, and that is almost a blue, Italian blue. That's a bit fairer. Well, you'd have to talk to Moses about that. Tell you what, you people, the notice. Well, Forrest did say get out into the trees. So, if you don't understand that statement, then maybe look again at the soul that you have. No, you definitely are, Bill. Why aren't you just under Bill Gorman? So DBU, Bill. I could use a wrench right now. Yeah, I don't hand out wrenches because I don't think that any information should be suppressed. Each to their own, and you never know where certain information takes you. Although I think Paul should be wrench free forever because he's got whack-a-mole syndrome. He is. Well, so that's a good statement, but what was he talking about? The chess, the simple, solve, or was he talking about something else? He's surprised it had not been found. That's just a little bit of just. Oh yeah, poor Forrest. He tried to make something, but yeah, it does seem like the snakes have moved in, but like I say, the chaos that was said, who's going to help me, chaos or embroidery? Does chaos help in the overall scheme of things, and does he protect Binder by having all of this chaos? Time will tell. Oh, don't be like that. I thought you were a friend of hers. I tell you what, you can be cruel, you are. I hope it doesn't come back and bite you, unless probably all sitting around the banquet table already. Yeah, that map was a bit strange. It didn't seem like the degrees was correct, but I could be wrong. So yeah, and those could be what are called spirituals, Lucky. So people say you go on a spiritual journey. So the slaves used to have spirituals, and they were the songs that we sing nowadays, and probably don't take any notice of why they were sung, and they would help them escape from the oppression, which made them relate to Moses and his followers because of what they were going through. So those spirituals, may be involved in the chase, may not be involved in the chase, but those songs are probably stem back from that time. I just thought, yeah, and that's an issue that I found with the chase. It's like nobody laughs. Um, if you make a statement, it's taken as an insult and a factual slur, when in fact it's just an imagination, or just yeah, a little bit of poking and prodding, just to see, or just to get a reaction, not to see anything, just to get a reaction, or just because in their own mind, in their own imagination, it's funny. I say a lot of things that I think are funny, and people probably go, "What's he talking about?" Are we talking about the thrill of the chase images? So, just looking at the word imagination, images was one of the words. So, in the thrill of the chase book, if imagination is hint, then you would have to make a deduction that images, being imagination, and hint, being imagination, could be the same. Same with words like frank or stamp. If those are the words that you get from the words that Forrest gives you, then you have to use them. So could the postmarks be a hint? So sprinkle through the pages of the book or whatever. Does that mean 5 or 6, or does that mean 50? I believe firmly that I wish I could have lived to do the things I was attributed to. Is a very helpful bit of information, along with the moon and the dove, the turtle, etc. And it seems like they're both telling something at the same time. Maybe telling the same thing, or maybe telling two different things, but definitely there to give important information. And it's important to know what's worth knowing and what isn't. So, do you need to know, about what's on those pages? So talk about barbers. Yeah. See, I don't know, Davey, but I don't know if it's my computer or um, I don't know, maybe the solar flares. So, how do I explain it? When I talk to David, I say to David that solve, the solution, or the trove, however you want to call it, could be anywhere in the world, anywhere in the galaxy, anywhere in the universe. Forrest talked about the chest that he was hiding, and then he asked about a secret treasure. So that secret treasure might not have the constrictions that the chest had. So the 8.25 miles north of Santa Fe could be for a chest that he talked about, and then the secret treasure was something you had to find that was not 8.25 miles north of Santa Fe. That could be anywhere, but he wasn't going to tell you where it is. You had to work and find it. So that's how I see that. So even if it was south of Santa Fe, I don't find that an issue. That was never an issue in the family anyway. But I don't find that an issue because he said it was a secret treasure. It was a treasure that was secreted or hidden, or however you want to look at it. But he didn't say that he was going to give you the answers to that. He just told you about the chest that he hid in the Rocky Mountains. I'm not saying that the other isn't in the Rocky Mountains, but I'm saying have to think, what if? What if you were told about one thing that's been found, that's been auctioned, and something else that may also have been found that is not, on anybody's radar other than, whoever sold it, or whatever. So that's how I see it in my imagination, that, there was something more. And if you're saying, people say there's something more, and then they keep screaming that they found the chest, it's like, well, how can you say there's something more, but you screaming that you found the door prize. Doesn't make sense to me. Either it was just a chest and it's finished and it's over, or there is something more and you stopped when you found a chest. The two don't equate to me. And that's not to say that I'm correct. That is just like I just think, well, I don't understand what you're saying. You're saying that you found a chest and Jack's, fake, which possibly is true, but maybe fake for a reason. But you can't have it both ways. Either you just search for a chest and don't understand there's something more, or there is something more, and things are going, hopefully as they should be going, in order that Forrest makes it happen the way that it's supposed to be, because that was the plan. Something like some sort of crazy train, could be important. Without being an independent individual, without having an independent mind, you become nothing. Obscure shadow. Clever man or woman. It's hard to Nanette. Without being an independent individual. I like that. Yeah, so David talked about Montezuma's gold, but it's like, well, it can't be there because he's ruled it out. But like I've just said, when I have a chat, it's like, well, we have to distinguish between what you're talking about. If you're talking about the chest, that's one thing, and if you're talking about a trove, that's something else. So what is it? What is it we're talking about? How does that equate to what it is we are saying? If that makes sense. So if you're talking about the chest, which has been at Heritage Auction, that's one thing. But if you talk about secret treasure that he asked in the interview, does anybody know about my secret treasure? No? Good. So there has to be something else because that was a statement in the book. So there's a secret treasure and there's the treasure that Forrest told us about, the gold that he told us about. And that equates to Jack saying, Forrest, is this the chest in the book, The Thrill of the Chase? Specific enough to say, look, here's one thing and there's something else maybe. So, people didn't understand that statement, but, for me, it's just an obvious statement of, look, here is gold, here is chest. Is it the gold in the chest that's in the book, The Thrill of the Chase? Yes. Well, that chest goes to auction, and there is a secret, something that, hasn't. Potentially, possibly. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying, if you're not prepared to think what if, which is what Forrest said, then you're going to be stuck with questions about Jack and 9 Mile Hole and all sorts of things, which, isn't a bad thing if you want to protect the finder. So, why would somebody tell the answer if they were a shy guy or if Forrest doesn't want it known? So, Forrest made the statement, I don't just want to get an email. I want to sit down and have a chat. Otherwise things get abstract. That is, to me, was giving information. Oh, well done, Bill. Yeah, you're getting very, yeah. Blue is inquiring, features that could put them. Well, nobody believes it's in 9 Mile Hole, but there's information in the poem that says it could be, but there's information that says it could be high hand, lost in thought, a gasoline Mensa, Kent and Esther. You name it, there's information in the poem that says that's a possibility. Salt Lake City, well, not Salt Lake City, but a soul involving Salt Lake City, handcarts and stuff. You won't believe what's in that poem, and I don't believe what's in that poem, and yet I've read it over and over and over, which is what Forrest said you had to do. You have to read it over and over until something catches up in your brain. All those statements are meant to aid the finder, which is what he said, to aid the finder, not the seeker. Once you understand all those statements, it's you're 50% there. He was saying once you solve the first two clues, you're 50% there. You solve the first two clues, it becomes academic, etc., etc., etc. To me, the impression is that it's there to aid the finder and not the seeker, the person who's found something, who can, walk in those footprints, etc. Who did that? No compass or shadow. Too far to walk, is this? Well, those are weird statements. I'm not quite sure how they fit together with who, to be fair. Well, Bill, sometimes you have to look back to know exactly where you've been in order to know where you're going. So it's always wise to, see what's behind you. Should be something you're told when you're taught to drive, to be fair. Whilst always going forward, you need to know the potential hazards that you have at the back of you. But don't look back in anger, according to the song. Yeah, seeing the video that you did at 9 Mile was like a cool place, and seeing the video that Cynthia did with Capro, but people moaning about the Nookers, but I thought that was giving out information, and I'm not averse to trying to understand a new bit of information. So the usual suspects aren't in yet. That surprises me. Well, I don't know, but this is no offence. This is a turtle. It's just so through the chase. We've had people like Little Rock, Kurt. These people seem to come and go, and then different names come into the chase, and they go, and it's like, oh no, I was just getting used to that name, and now there's another name. So, Bobby Brass uses a lot of different names. Jason's disappeared, or is under a different name. David Paisano uses different names. Bill uses different names. It's like just when you think you're getting used to who this person is, like a different name comes in, and you have to try and work out who that is. Yeah, and the D Meadow. So looking at that, I was in a video game, and that was taking me through like the Secret Valley and stuff. Can't remember. And I was like, wow, this is so much like the chase. How did this game get on here? Obviously, there was a 64 Crow reference, so down that rabbit hole for a wee time. So yeah, that's the one. The D Meadow Skippy Gearbox. Tired and weak, lucky. I'll be there. Tuckered. No, just put it in. So, things like Skippy was turning alpha were the things that sort of like caught my attention, or bite down hard on a big biscuit, or see a hardy bounce, or the fag end, or, statements like that don't, or, I learned 8 words in so many minutes. Those sort of statements in the thrill of the chase are the ones that stand out to me as far as trying to tell us something. And even, I had what everybody thought was terminal cancer. What do you mean everybody thought it was terminal cancer? The, the doctors may have thought it was terminal cancer, but what's it got to do with everybody else? Why is there an everybody involved in that statement? So terminal is pot of gold and cancer is spot. So, what everybody thought was pot of gold spot, which is what is happening in the chase. Everybody thinks they have the spot. And that statement then doesn't actually, like what everybody thought was terminal cancer. Well, surely if the doctors thought it was. So imagined it was terminal cancer. So imagined it was a pot of gold spot. And that brings you to, Douglas knew in 1995 about the Arizona car park. But this wasn't done until 2010. So if you go back from that, Forrest doesn't do anything for more than 15 years. It took 15 years to write the poem. So did he start the poem in 1995, finish it in 2010, and put the book out? Or was it before then? Were the pictures before then? Was, me and David talked about when Cynthia gave Forrest the toilet roll when COVID was happening. Forrest seemed to have aged a bit with his Billy the Kid out from the Forrest that we knew. And it's like, oh, that was quick. So those sort of things, stand out and you think, I'm puzzled. I don't want to do any more poem stuff. So I don't say that I've got every possible poem conundrum solved. There are a few that I probably haven't got, but because like I said in the email to Forrest, I'm happy with happy with the soul. I'll stop searching. And when I discuss it with David, I say, the soul won't change. And that's the thing that's happened to, a lot of people. They keep changing their soul. And it's like, well, if you're changing your soul, it can't be right. It was never right if you keep changing it. I can't change the answer. The answer to the question is still the same answer. It won't change. It doesn't matter how many times I look at the phone. All I can do is find out more information. So I could potentially find out information that Forrest had intended to be released, a week or two down the road, a month down the road, a year down the road. It's potentially possible to find that information in the poem. And that would be all that you do. You just find information. Just because I put out information doesn't mean it's part of the solve. It just means it's part of the chase. The solve is finished. It has to have been, because Forrest said my treasure has been found. So nobody can resolve the solve. The solve is done, but the information can still be put out. You can still find information. So that is still part of the thrill. It's not, while the treasure has been found, it doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't still have the thrill. Because Forrest said, look forward to the promise of new discoveries. So what are those new discoveries? What is the potential for finding bells and jars and other discoveries? So the hint of riches new and old, remember, we've just seen riches as imagination, a synonym of imagination. So a hint of imagination is new and old. What was imagined before? Did he imagine D.B. Cooper? Did he imagine another treasure hunt? Are those hunts the same person? Are they the same answers? More likely not than yes, but D.B. Cooper would be an old imagination. Chase would be a new imagination. And if I had another chest to hide in the Appalachian Mountains, it might be another, a future imagination. So who knows? The Ghost of Springs will take me back to that. Mix of Blades. So in the simple solve, the blaze makes itself, potentially. So, in order to see the blaze, you would have to look up to see it. But then you'd have to look quickly down to understand why you have to look up. So there's a simple solve. And once you see the blaze, if Forrest said, it's unlikely that people get within 12 foot, and not know, or whatever the statement was. That's a bit unfortunate. It's close though. 47 and 17. Well, so Forrest said you can get it in any weather, so any time of the year. Yeah, beware of mud, he said. So, and that's another thing as well. So, warm water's halt could be the equator. So, is it in the middle of the Atlantic or Pacific or whatever it is, or is it somewhere else? How many equators are there? What is the possibility of that being a potential solve? Yeah, Forrest said, go out into the desert. So, there's some good information coming out there. So you have to make the lines cross, Forrest said. Make the lines cross, something to do with lines crossing. But I think, importantly, his information, and depending what you're looking for, was, solving the first two clues seems to be really important. Once you do that, it's academic, and, you're 50% the way there, metaphorically speaking. You know, if I told you the home of brain, go right straight to it. Solve the first two clues, walk right past the chest. Surely, if your solve doesn't incorporate that, anything after those first two clues takes you away from the chest. So if your solve has the end is ever drawing nigh, and you start to go off and veer left or whatever, no place for the meek. If you're going to another place, then surely that contradicts what Forrest said. Solving the first two clues, and it's academic. Solving the first two clues, you're 50% of the way there. You can't be 50% of the way there with 9 clues. So there has to be a reason why that's been said. And in my opinion, Forrest is telling you exactly what it is that you need to do if you're prepared to listen. If your solve doesn't have the 50% rule in, if it doesn't become academic, if you go away from the Homer Brown, which Forrest said, if I told you the Homer Brown, you go right straight to it. So if you're going away from the Homer Brown, you're doing what he said. You solve the first two clues and walk right by the chest. So, I'll look at simple solve and go, well, this is simple enough because Forrest said if you knew the Homer Brown, you go right straight to it. So that has to be the answer, which is the Sherlock Holmes thing. You have to do all the boss line things, and what's left is the answer. Path, yeah. So I ended up at Union Pass there, to be fair, and you could have the Continental Divide, isolate going backwards, um, being spelt backwards in the poem, and going backwards and travelling to both places. So it seemed like a good answer at some point, but again, offered us good solutions because it doesn't gel with the rest of the stuff. So the San Juans, yeah. Oh, San Juans. I thought that was more New Mexico than Colorado. What am I thinking of? No, I'm thinking of the Christ one, aren't I? Mountain. San Cristo. San Cristo, whatever it is. Sorry, Bill. My fault. My imagination running away with me. Anyway, for me, it's 25 to 2 in the morning. For some of you, you are heading towards 22, take off 7, 5 o'clock, no, 7 o'clock ish. And Davy B, you're probably up and raring to go now because you're 9 o'clockish, unless you've gone back to sleep. And I won't blame you because probably my monotone voice has probably let you go snoring now. So for Davey B, have a good morning. For the rest of you, you're going towards your night, and I do appreciate you popping in and 4 likes, so that's not anything to be sniffed at. Oop. It's a discussion whether they are part of the Rockers or not part of the Rockers. St. John. Yeah, so I was thinking the Sangre de Cristo was the New Mexico stuff. Exactly, yes, he was. He was the only one that needed a sliding trick, and he was shifty. They shift according to what the poem tells us to do. It is a setting instructions in their place for them. Okay, so, but which is it under Live It Vivid? Is it in the Live It Vivid category? And again, there are people whose souls that I am aware of and haven't mentioned. So, I've mentioned them, but I haven't explained them. So people like Tim Kirkland, 100%. Is it good information or correct information? This is scary. So I say good because I don't want to, found lots of information that is worthy of anyone knowing. So, if Tim's going to speak or show stuff, then it'd be good to hear. I've, the Dutchman from the East used to put out some good information. Queen has some good information. While I say it's good information, and while it might be part of the chase, I think there's a difference between the information you can get and the solving of the poem. So the poem was always meant to be full of information, and people could find different roads to travel to get that information. But those roads always seem to lead to the same place. Different answers, but the same place, and different states, but the same place. So nobody, in my opinion, is wrong. And if the chase is about you have to find a chest and you get something, then everybody gets something, or should get something, in my opinion. That's how I would see it. If you found a chest and you told Forrest where you found that chest, and that equates to the poem, then in my opinion, if it was my chase, I'm not telling Forrest what he should do. But Forrest said that it's up to the finder to find a story to tell. I'm not stating what the finder should do after the event, and that's a misquote by some people. He was asked a question about what the finder should do with it when they find it, and that's why Forrest was saying, I'm out of it. It is because he was asked that question specifically. He was not going to tell the finder what to do because Capo asked him what the finder should do, what he thought the finder should do. And Forrest said, well, that's up to the finder, it's not to me. I'm out of it. So that was how that sort of statement came about. In my opinion, that's what I got from that statement. What do you think they should do with the finder chest? And Forrest was saying, well, it's not to me, it's up to the finder. It's a story to tell, etc., etc., etc. Or their story to tell, or whatever. So, I think most of us are under the assumption that it's a man. But if you think back to a recent song, Billie Eilish, she calls herself a bad guy. She is female, as far as I know. And that's the impression that Again, it's hard to know in this world nowadays what to call people, whether to say they're female, male, or whatever. But the song is a bad guy, and I'm led to believe that she is female, so therefore that female is calling herself a guy. And if it's a shy guy from the east, then who's to say that it has to be a man? So unfortunately, in this day and age, and I don't want to offend anybody by saying it, but in this day and age, or what I've just said, it's hard to know. Um, yeah, it's hard to know. You can't make an assumption. And how woke was Forrest? You know, 1995 onwards, maybe. How woke was that um, thought process, and how woke was it when he made the statement that a shy guy from the east, from back east, which is different than a shy guy from the east. So my interpretation of that, and I'm not saying it's fact, I'm saying it's my interpretation. My opinion is, if you're saying a shy guy from the east, that's one thing. If you're saying it's a shy guy from back east, to me that's saying something else. Going back east, as opposed to being from the east. Bobby Appleton. Could that be Bobby Brass? It's not like him to put BA. Oh, could it be Barbara? If you are Barbara, I hope it's a lovely dinner. I'll have some. Mule dream. Double legs, is that you? With the gold pen. Stay off the streets, take the high road. Oh, missing some. Oh, Sophia's here. Hi, Sophia. How are you? Nice meeting you. Nice meeting. Well, I'm part sleep, so I'm as alive as it's going to be. That you with a gold poem. Um, so I was doing what was told to do. Why did they use street cleaners to pick up? Well, prayed for these. That's probably why. Hi, Hush. No person picking up that picture this summer. If I said anybody is in Mississippi is an Easterner. Oh, I didn't know that. He said the Mississippi, the great Mississippi, really. Negatives are stacked against you, Bill. Yeah, so me and Davey talk about this a lot. There's the statement that was made was something about CNN and K-Pro's channel and stuff like that, and that never really happened. So to me, that meant that the first part was done and there was something more. And I think when the end really does come, so if Forrest is protecting, a persons, male or female, they, them, whatever. If Forrest is protecting someone, then it will go as long as it goes or needs to go until that is the case, until whoever it is, and again, I wish them all the best, whoever it is, until that is the case, we will be where we are, because the surprise party won't happen until the surprise party is supposed to happen, as bad as it may feel, waiting and waiting. So when it does happen, it will be announced, proper. Whatever, if it's a Hollywood ending. See, another thing we talked about, being a Hollywood ending doesn't necessarily have to be a Hollywood ending. It could just be a film that goes to Hollywood, and the end is there. So, although it does talk about ticker tape parade and everything, but making it happen, there are some troubles that come with the treasure hunt, or whatever it was said. Making it happen is as hard as trying to solve it, to be fair. So, patience is a good thing, and so is understanding. So, if you understand enough of what's going on, then it's easy to have patience, I think. And there, that's the catch-22, isn't it? it has to make sense. So, in my emails to Forrest, some of them were about, you know, if all bases are covered, you have to understand certain things. This is not what I said, but I'm trying to hide what I said in the statement. But I was concerned about a few things that I was finding, and the making it happen, and the statements that were made. I was like, "Ooh, crikes!" So trying to understand the poem sometimes made you think, well, while he says it's difficult but not impossible, it seems like it's going to be impossible and really impossible. But you know, Forrest has an ace in the hole and never does anything unless he can finish it, basically. And if he says he can, he normally does it. So, who was I to question Forrest? Not saying I'm the solver or anything, I'm just saying this is what I was thinking. So don't start jumping up and down and saying, you didn't do it, I did it, I found it. Yeah, it was not announced in 2000. That was true. So, yeah, I start searching way after that. There'd been many solvers by the time I got into it. So, yeah, David B, and me talk about. Even we could come from the east, depending on which way you're looking at it. So, yeah, yeah, which is tantamount to 1776. Before that, you know, Europe was on one side of the world and America was on the other, and nobody knew about it, and nobody knew about Australia, although there were already people there, but nobody knew about it. And we are all brown, apart from albinos, we are, all brown. So, and that's a fact. We're just different. Is it melanin, pigment, skin, whatever? Yeah, there's some synonyms that agree with that. Hush. Um, hmm, well, it's definitely not me then because I'm not writing anything. Although, hmm, if someone's still alive, someone needs to interrupt the book. Do you want to book without me? Of course you don't. You don't move back. Well, I don't know if sneaky is probably not a good word. I don't think FF was sneaky. I think he was, as he says, 101 street smarts. I think it wasn't sneaky. I don't think it's sneaky to want to do something and protect something at the same time. It's just clever. It's just trying to find a way to, well, to make it happen. There's no point in doing, even if it's not called a treasure hunt, there's not no point in doing anything if you're going to tell people the answers. And that goes the same for Randy. All the stuff that he's done, all the effort he's put into those puzzles. What's the point of telling people the answer? Because then it'll just be over. The whole idea is to try and solve it. So yeah, you have to be, as clever as you can to. This would never have been solved. Never in a million years if Forrest hadn't put out the information that he put out. And, I'm not saying, that Unsolved, David B's a solver, or anybody's a solver. What I'm saying is, it would never have been solved. Ever. Ever. No way. So, I wouldn't say Forrest was sneaky. I would just say he put it out there and he did what he did. So he put the poem out there for people to look at, to see, to work on, and then he gave information that might help people understand it. If he didn't do that, no, I can't see anybody working out. People talk about trying to beat Forrest. You weren't going to beat him. You could just listen to him, but you weren't going to beat him. If he wanted to, he could. He could have run rings around us. If he hadn't said a single word, it, it would just go, it would just go on and on, and we'd all just never know anything. Oh, hang on. Yeah. I thought that was a reference to River Deep Mountain High, but I hope that's not a real statement. I saw the laughing underneath by Amy Green. I'm thinking, it's clever. In a brilliant way. Better family, smarts, etc. So what Well, we're not solving. While speaking to David B, and I try not to do anything without speak to David. Whatever it is that I have on my mind, I sort of like talk about different things at different stages. But this, what people call solving, Forrest said, look forward to new discoveries. So that must mean that he has I don't know, let's call it, I don't know if you've got goldfish or anything, or pets, but they have like a drip feed thing. So, it drops off a bit of food, whatever it is, and then they eat that, and then later it'll drop off a bit more. So, that's full. Really, really full. That's full. And, the thriller's chase just keeps going. You know what I mean? It's not a solve that you can have. It's not an end solve. The thriller's chase won't end. Just each stage will take place. In my opinion, I think in David B's opinion as well, that we're just solving one thrill at a time. I've talked about playing tag in the poem with Forrest, and that's all it is. You play a game, and the next person's it, and you play another game, and the next person's it. You play another game, and the next person's it, and it just keeps going. There's no need for it to stop. I'm not, I can't say that for sure because I'm not Forrest, and even though I say in the poem it says, "Maro, you are Forrest," or "You are FF," I know I'm not FF, but it does say that in the poem, and there are other bits of information around that. So, if the information is to aid the finder and not the seeker, then obviously the person who found something has to understand. And if you can understand, that's part of the learning, part of the listening. You have to understand those statements of, begin it where warm water salt. If you don't have that, you might as well stay home and play canasta. Solve the first two clues, walk right by the chest. You have to understand those things, and those are there to aid the finder, not the seeker. So those people who are seeking, who aren't going straight to it, the in-person statement. So people say, "Oh, you have to be on boots on the ground to do it." Well, I don't know. I think it was in person or something like that. The statement was, but if you synonym the statement, it doesn't mean what you think it does. I don't think it'd be within 12 feet, and not see the blades. The poem must make sense. And for it to make sense, you have to understand all the statements that Forrest made, because he was talking about the poem and what you need to do to solve it, including, deep thinking, searcher using logic. I talk a lot of rubbish, don't I? Yeah, so COVID. That was interesting. It's not a guided tour, so what are we solving? Sun comes from the east. The sun comes from the east, or the sun rises in the east? Doesn't the sun stay where it is, and we, revolve around it? Well, oh, I see that. I hope it wasn't COVID yet. So yeah, according to the poem, it could potentially say that it was the door prize. So the word drawing could be, the door prize. The end, the real. Oh, I can't remember where it went, but it could say door prize. So it was telling you that the door prize was what you're going to find first, and then afterwards was something else. That might be not right or factually correct, depending on how far I saw it. But I imagine that a bingo was part of. Um, yeah, you found it. No, you haven't, sort of thing. Um, mhm. The 100. Yeah, I heard about the 100 the other day. I haven't looked at it yet, but I will do. I was going to look at. That's what I've forgotten. You didn't remind me, did you, Bill? What was it called? Something Jack. What was it called? Can't remember. Bill will tell me. Something Jack. Billy Jack. Billy Jack. Um, I'll have to watch that. See, Bill, you say some really good things, and I have to wonder, like, are you just trying to put people off in your other information, or are you trying to double that? If they say or not. Hmm. So you don't, well, you talk about double letters. You don't see the U's in there being double letters, as in like two amigas in the poem. I think I'm in season 4. Wow, that is binge watching, it is. It's not part of my reality fiction. Oh, what's that Billie Eilish is coming to get you? Yeah, the bad guys. Duh. Next person on this name is the 5 foot woman. Boom. So let me hazard a guess. Are you a 5 foot woman, Lucky? These are a series of hopes. Well, and lots of imagination. So dreams and hopes, both are imaginations. So basically, imaginations are a series of imaginations. Hi, asterisks or bye. Anyway, talking of bye, it is. Oh, it's exactly 2:0. Oh, dope. So just changed to 2:01 as I was just saying it was 2 a.m. So, well, Nook is a gallery. And other stuff. That's scary, isn't it? A Nook is a gallery. Hmm. Crook in a Nook who didn't read the book. I've read the book. So that's your puzzle. And is it under the Azure Turtle waits at our leisure? Or is it under Live It Vivid? Brian Gate. Well, go and see Brian now, and then I'll go sleep because Brian's pretty clever. Probably more clever than I am. Yes, it is. So, which is that the answer to? Yes, it is the puzzle, or yes, it is Live It Vivid, or Blue Turtle. Why is Brian Gates? Why is Brian Gates? Why is Brian Gates? I don't get that question. Why is Brian Gates? Why is he live? I can understand, but why is he Gates? I don't. Yeah, yeah, that's a bit weird, but as long as I know who you are, it's okay. Who? Doctor Who, Wednesday. It's not yours. You stole it. Harrison Ford done. Yes. So that is in the poem. Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny. Crazy, but it's there. It's in there. Even the rehearsal dates are in there. Not the rehearsal. What do they call them? Trailers. The trailer releases. So the Dial of Destiny in the poem. Harrison Ford was in there. The whole lot was in there. What do they call them? The trailer releases. It was trailer, wasn't it? Trailer. So the movie trailer, the release date was in the poem, and the film was in the poem, and the title of the film that nobody knew in 2010 when the book came out. It's strange, isn't it? How Forrest could do that. Give the title to a film of an Indiana Jones. Give the title to an Indiana Jones film in 2010. That's crazy. And when the trailer releases would come out. That's crazy. Crazy, crazy. It's supposed to be June 30th here, I think. The reviews have happened, so you could look up the reviews. The premiere was done, all the famous people and the people who starred in it would have seen it. Yeah, so that's a very good possibility. But then that says we were here before or aliens have, done whatever they did. There's a lot of information that I haven't put out that is in the poem, and it freaks me out that Forrest could have put it there. And people say it's coincidence, or you can find, in any text you can find stuff. But this is systematic, methodical information. Going in circles is what I said. So, excuse me. If that's the case, I have more than 500 different bits of information on that poem. And I mean, when I say more than 500, I mean going towards the top end. You can find information, say on the page, and then find information to confirm that information, and then find information to confirm that information. I've already talked about the Powerball, and there's more than one Powerball lottery drawn in that poem. And the first one has correctly stated how much it was for, even though it was only suggested before the lottery that it was 1.9 billion. It told of the presenter saying it was going to be delayed. It gave the Powerball and all the numbers. And I did put in chat, buy me a ticket before it was drawn. I don't know where that is. I can't remember where I put it. But, if you went back into the chat before that 2.4 billion lottery was done, you'll see me asking for someone to buy me a lottery ticket. But hey ho, I thought I was going to be rich. It's like, what? $2.4 billion? Well, it didn't say 2.4 billion, it said 2.4 billion. So I thought I was going to be rich. Buy me a ticket. I'd have given the money back for one. Yeah, I've got to go. So thanks, Lily, for coming. Oh, hi, Fendi. It's good to read you. And it's good to see your real name, not having to try and work out who is who. So, the Dial of Destiny. That seems like try the wheel. Maybe baby. Baby is head and other stuff. So yes, I'm going to try and go live Friday. Thanks for coming today. Thanks, Bill, for telling me about Restream, Restream it looked like. I'll give that a whirl because £150 for a couple of shows on Zoom is a bit. I can't afford that. It's just I can't afford to pay that money to do that. So thanks, Luli, Fendi, Bill, the art contains. Well, the art could be the rainbow. I know imaginations is definitely the rainbow. So the end of my imaginations. So you get to the end of his imaginations, you get all the 9 clues, which is another synonym of imagination. You get the hints, which is another synonym of imagination, etc., etc., etc. You know where that's going. And Moses is in Yellowstone, and that's factual information, not just pointing at my backside. Moses is there for all to see. Yeah, the beholder, absolutely. So thank you, Amy, Sophia, Lucky, Bill, Moni, Davey, Fendi. I'm glad you're still in the chase. Who have I missed? Livid, Vivid, Asterisk, said Luli, Amy. I think there's anyone else. Maybe there is. Go on. If I missed you, sorry. I can't. I'm flicking through now. Hush Whisperer, Whisper. Okay. Hush Whisper. All of you people who turned up to listen to me, I appreciate that. And I'm under no illusions. I don't expect you to like what I say, and I don't expect you to agree with what I say. But it's nice that you actually take time to listen. You know, and there's too many people that are willing to turn a blind ear, if that's possible, to different thoughts and ideas. And I just want to make it clear, I don't think that anybody is wrong, no one. And I don't not like people because other people don't like them. There's nobody in the chase that I don't like. I think Josh is a bit negative, but if that's his part to play, that's his part to play. But don't hold it against him. But you don't hold it against somebody in a film if they're the baddie. They're just the baddie. They're probably nice people. So I can't imagine that. Even Mitchell, who I haven't seen for ages. But, as weird as it was, if he's there to make it happen, he's there to make it happen. Although it could be a bit intimidating. So thank you very much. I want you all to take care. Thank you. Without people listening, although I would have gone on because I think I'm trying to get the message across that Forrest has done something good, and we should appreciate that and not vilify it or. And again, it could all be part of the making it happen. It just seems weird to listen to people having a go at the family, having a go at Forrest, having a go at each other. And there's no need. Just talk it through. There has to be common ground, and for me, the common ground is the first 2 clues. If you can understand that, or eliminate it from yourself. So if you think you've got a solve and you can't work out why the first 2 clues are important or how to understand it, then it's possible that if you don't understand the academic, after the first 2 clues, academic, first 2 clues, 50% there, metaphorically speaking, first 2 clues, walk right by the chest, little girl from India can't get closer than the first 2 clues. If you don't have warm water salt, stay home, play canasta. There's lots of information in that. If I told you home of brown, go right straight to it. If you can't work that out, then maybe that part of your solve is not leading you to a correct. I'm just saying maybe. I'm not saying it's not. Maybe it's not, but you have to try and start somewhere. And starting somewhere is starting with what Forrest said. And that could well be just the first part of something. Any part of some is better than no part of any. So that could be the first part, and then the chase continues, and the chase continues, and the chase continues. And there's another poem in the chest, and it's there to aid the finder, not seeker. Leave your friend in the car. The chest has not moved in 10 years. Do I have to give the money to my brother, etc.? Those sort of things are there to help. So thanks again. Ciao for now. Wig, hiya. Sorry, I forgot that I didn't mention you, but thank you for being here. Try and read the last bit before again, please. 70s. No, I wasn't born. I was really good. Yeah, I'll have a look. I'm pretty sure I like it because um, it's another puzzle of its own. So I'll definitely like it if I can understand it. Because I'm not that smart. Just um, do what I think I've been asked to do, and then some people say stuff. Ah, and he moves his code. Yeah, not the Moses I was thinking about when I made that statement, but yeah, but there was also a female, shall we say, that was not. That's just reminding me of someone else. Remember, so I've done that. Okay, so take care, everyone. Those that are making their dinner or tea or supper, whatever they're having, I hope it's a good one, and you have people to share it with. Have a drink for me if you're having a drink. I don't drink, but I have a sip for me. Oh, that's fine. The cattle graze in the summer. Right, okay, so we hit it in summer, so no drink. No, I don't drink, but just it's basically a toast of, chase community, having a place to talk and listen and get along, which is what Forrest said. Can't we all just get along? So I shall salute you, love you, and leave you. I can't say whether they're for male or female because I'll probably get in trouble about being sexist because it's a strange world nowadays. So, ciao for now. Thanks again for taking the time to spend with me. See you later.